Welcome to the Drive Time Podcast.
I'm Alfred Barnes.
And I'm Parker Brown.
And we are here with our first ever guest on Drive Time. This is episode, I think, like 80, 81 or something. We've never done a guest, but we decided to do one. Yeah, and we got a good one. We got a good one. Yeah, a big get, as they say. You might know him from WKUK and a plethora of other writing things. We have Mr. Sam Brown.
Hey, I'm the first guest. Wow, that's so cool.
You're the first. We were back and forth on whether we wanted to do guests because, like, a lot of people are like, "Yeah, we just like hearing you two talk," and we were like, "Well, if we can get somebody good, we'll do a guest."
Yeah. We also tried having a guest. We took this road trip out to New Jersey, and it was like pouring down rain outside. It was not good. So you're try number 2, but you're our official first guest.
Yeah.
Wait, so you tried to have a guest, but it was raining too hard?
Yeah, so since we're in the car, we only brought 2 microphones, so we were like, Parker was driving, and we're like,
I see.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it is like pouring down rain on the New Jersey Turnpike, and we keep looking out to the road, and we just start seeing like different like forests, but they're flooding, and we're getting like notifications that there's like a flood warning. We're like, oh, we might die. Perfect time for a podcast, you know? It's like a black box of an airplane, dude. Yeah, we'll our last will and testament will be us doing like bad Jerry Seinfeld impressions and stuff like that. That's how we want to go out.
Yeah, that's how we all want to go out, like real men, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I know,
real macho man.
Sometime on the battlefield, we die recording podcast. But yeah, so before we hopped on, we were talking about you doing stand-up, which I don't think is something that you're quite as well known for, but it's something we obviously appreciate. So
it's fascinating, like just doing stand-up. And I definitely like, it's one of these things where I got into the comedy scene by doing sketch stuff, and for years and years had this crutch of having 4 other guys that I was writing stuff with, and we'd go, "Is that funny? Yeah, that's funny. All right, let's do that on stage." And then sometimes it just wasn't funny. But like most of the times it was pretty funny because, we could be like, "Oh, no, that's not funny. Let's not do that." Oh yeah, that is funny. Let's do that. And then also the times where it's not funny, you can just like be like, "Oh, that was all 5 of us are responsible for that."
Yeah.
And it's not so bad. But then eventually, like people get busy with different stuff, and it gets like harder to do stuff as a sketch group and perform stuff, but you still want to be a member of the comedy community. And so you sort of like, are like, "Oh, can I do your stand-up show?" But when you have your own TV show, it was this thing of like, "Hey, I got a TV show. Can I do your stand-up show?" And people are like, "Yeah, sure." And so, and then you go up on their stand-up show, and you're like, I thought I didn't prepare anything. I thought it would just come naturally to me. I thought maybe I'd be a natural at this. It turns out I'm not a natural. But you still like get on the shows. And so for a while I was like, I think I was bad at stand-up because I would just like kind of get opportunities that I didn't deserve, and then like not work hard enough to make sure I had the goods,
Yeah.
That's been like my experience with like my sex life, you know what I mean? It's just been opportunities I don't deserve, and then just failing miserably most of the time. So
How do you get these opportunities you don't deserve? Is it that you're like from stand-up? Oh, okay. For a second, I thought you were about to say that you were like, from prostitutes. And I'm like, I don't deserve this woman. I paid her for this. And
that would be hilarious if you hired a prostitute and they're like, "You're actually really bad at sex. Like, did you know that? Like, you're getting reviewed.
I've had a lot of sex, and you are not good."
They give you like a 1-star Uber rating.
I think that's in the movie Unforgiven why that guy cut up the girl in the beginning.
Dude, we have a whole bit about. Oh my god, I watched Unforgiven, and one of I remember telling you about this movie where it's Clint Eastwood, and like my favorite part of that movie, Sam, is like this guy. I don't know if you remember this part. This guy does this whole speech. He's like, "You're the guy that went into that village. You killed all those children. You robbed you stole the Declaration of Independence. You assassinated the president." And then Clint Eastwood just goes, "Yeah." And that's the whole line. And he won an Oscar for that movie.
No, he's fucking badass. No, like not like spoiler alert with that movie. The end of the movie is Gene Hackman down on the ground, and Gene Hackman, who's been this like a cab sheriff, basically. He's like this, like, I'm just a good guy sheriff and I do what's right and I keep order in these parts, and then but he's like really this fucking asshole, you know, like, and you know, there's this big crazy shootout at the end of the movie, but it ends with like Gene Hackman down on the ground, and he looks up at Clint Eastwood, who's this guy who has this sordid past, and he looks at Clint Eastwood and goes, "I'll see you in hell." And Clint Eastwood looks at him and goes, "Yeah," and shoots him. It's that, it's just that, like, yeah, you will see me in hell. You are gonna die right now. It sends chills down my spine. That movie's badass.
I always think I think that there's like a lineage between that movie and the John Wick movies, because like there's so many similarities there of like his wife being dead and like it's his last memory of his wife, and then he's just like killing like 20 people at once. You know what I mean? Like I think that's my theory in my head is that that's the prototype for John Wick, pretty much.
Well, you could say that John Wick is influenced by genres like kung fu movies, samurai movies, and westerns.
Yeah.
You know, which is very, you know, like, I think it's definitely all those things where it's like, hey, let's have this simple story of revenge, and like which are like tropes in all those movies, and it's a winning formula, you know?
Yeah. Westerns and Easterns, you might say.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
But
did you know that there's this there's the movie Fistful of Dollars, the Clint Eastwood movie?
Yeah.
And it's based on Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, which only came out like 7 years before it or something like that. And but like they didn't like get the rights to it or anything. So Yojimbo, they sued the production of Fistful of Dollars when it was, or the movie studio, for releasing like, hey, you just did our movie in a different time period in America. And they won, and that's the most money Akira Kurosawa has ever made on any of his movies.
Really? That's crazy.
That's at least what I heard. I mean, maybe it's wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I always tell people this story. Me and one of my best friends, he's like a huge Clint Eastwood fan. And one night we were like, okay, we're going to just do the Fistful of Dollars trilogy. You know, like it's Fistful of Dollars, a few dollars more, and then the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we started it at like one of us had to get off work, so we started it at like 9 o'clock at night. And so Fistful of Dollars is a tight fucking movie. It's like, I think like maybe an hour 10, hour 20. Great movie. A few dollars more, again, tight movie. So we're at like midnight. We're like, oh yeah, dude, this thing is going great. And then The Good, the Bad, the Ugly is like a 4-hour long movie with just like entire subplots that we're like, why are we doing? What is the point of this? Why is there a bridge? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. We just want to go to bed, and we're like this is the best movie of all time. But we and we started off the night too. Like he had this thing of peanut butter whiskey, and like we had this Fistful of Dollars trilogy drinking game, and it was like every time Clint Eastwood lights up a cigarillo, take a shot. In a Fistful of Dollars, the first movie, like within the first 20 minutes, he lights up like 8 cigarillos.
Yeah, it would have been better off being like anytime someone shoots a gun, you take a shot, you know, like
Whenever he's not smoking, you take a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, like I imagine by the time you got to the bridge scene though, where there's this like Civil War general who's like this horrible drunk, you were that drunk. I imagine there was some comfort in that.
That one of the rules was if you're as drunk as someone in the movie, you have to take another shot too. So we actually it kept going. It was the gift that kept on giving.
Yeah.
But back to talking kind of about stand up and live performances. One of my big questions I wanted to ask you was, the end of season 1 of Whitest Kids You Know is like a live show, right?
Season 2.
Season 2, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll just
no problem.
No.
I feel like an asshole for calling you out on that. I should just let that go.
But like, how much were you guys doing, live shows before the TV show, and like what's was it a hard transition? Did you guys have shows where you like bombed or whatever, or like what was that whole experience
like live shows where we bombed?
Yeah.
That's like if you see anyone that's like good at doing stuff at live stuff, that's because they were at some point bad at doing live stuff, and that they like figured something out. And that's just like the thing is you're not gonna learn the burner is hot until you get burnt. There's a friend of mine who like had this saying that I loved about stand-up, where he was like, there's 2 moments that make a stand-up. The first moment, you go up in front of a room full of people and you say a joke and everyone laughs, and all you want to do is go back and do it again. And the first time you go up there and you say a joke and no one laughs, and in spite of that, you still just want to go up there and do it again. So we, as a comedy group, we started in college, and we would do shows at our amphitheater in college. And that was actually kind of like this nice, like, little, like, kind of incubation period for us, because, and we weren't like the group that we eventually were, like, personnel wise, but also it was this thing of like, we were doing comedy shows for our peers and not concerning ourselves with like how we measured up to other comedians and what other comedians were doing at the time. And then finally, like, when we graduated college and we kind of formed the group that like you guys know as the Whitest Kids You Know, where it was like the 5 of us, we were doing shows around New York, and then we had this opportunity to do a live show at this club in the Lower East Side called Pianos. And so they had David Cross doing this stand-up show in their live room. And so he stopped doing his show, and so they needed to fill that slot. Now, like, there's a couple like interesting things about it that kind of like shaped who we were as comedians. One of those things being that since it was a stand-up show, it was a weekly stand-up show. And when we were like, hey, we want to, we think we could fill this slot, they asked us one question. They're like, do you think you could fill the room every week? We were like, yeah. And it was like, I said, it's like the dumbest, smartest thing we ever did. It was like the dumbest, smartest answer for anything, because, like we didn't really think about what that meant at the time, which is that like, you only have so many friends. You only have so many people that like want to go see you perform without knowing who you are, or not without knowing, like only so many people who will be like, I'll make it out of everything I can do and like go see you. And, so that meant that like, we did all our sketches that first week, and then like, we were like, okay, we did it. We did the show. All right, now we have 7 days to do the next show, to come up with the next show. And so we got in this pattern of just like every week we would meet and we would write stuff on Sundays, and we would write some new stuff for the show the next night, and then every Saturday we'd meet and we'd write stuff, and then every Sunday we'd meet and we'd finish writing stuff, produce any videos, and practice the show. And it was like at the end of the day on Saturday, we would have our like set list of what we were going to do the next night, and the next day was for like putting it together. And then we would walk to the show at like, you know, meet at noon, walk to the show at like 6, not like walk to the subways and take the subways to show, and like the show would go up at 8, and then if it went well, you know, it was this like super exciting time of our lives where it was like, you know, like we just did this awesome show and people wanted to hang out with us, and we have drink tickets and we're in this really cool area of the world. Like, I think, you know, like you could put the Lower East Side in the 2000s, you know, like up against any cool neighborhood in the world, and it's up there at least, you know. So that created this like sort of, that's where I learned comedy. That's like how I learned comedy, was doing these live shows and doing like writing sketches so much that it wasn't necessarily, you know, you definitely didn't want to like do a sketch that you're like, oh, this is gonna bomb, because like, you know, it's like that thing of like touching the stove and feeling the burn, you know, like you definitely are like, oh, I never want to do that again. And so you're definitely like keeping an eye on that, but you're also not being so precious with the like the real estate, because you have this sort of like unlimited real estate. You're going to be doing, you know, like if you don't do the sketch, if it doesn't fit in the show this week, we can just put it in the show next week.
Right.
And we can do it next week. And because we've got such a big well to fill. And so we became like really prolific in writing and like producing sketches. And that's, I think, the best way to learn how to write, because also it's not about like, you know, like you get past this thing of like, if you're just writing with a bunch of people, you're gonna eventually get into this place where you're like, it's not about how funny something is, it's about how well you can justify that something is funny. It's like it becomes like almost like litigating something being funny. Like, I think this is funny because of X, Y, and Z, and you become more concerned about proving to other people that something's funny than you're concerned about writing something funny. But if you have a live audience, there's no real argument to it.
Right.
It's sort of like, oh, that bombed. That, I mean, and there are some times where you're like, that bombed, let's try it again, I think we could do better, and you start to have those arguments. But really the thing is you stop worrying about the other person and the other person's perspective on the piece and the art itself, and you start worrying about the audience's relationship to the piece. And that's where your focus should be, is like the audience's relationship to the joke, you know, like that's what you should be like trying to make better. And that's how we got good at like, not only, you know, like putting up stuff, we also got like good at like, you know, because we were doing stuff like time and time again. And, you know, you do that first draft of the script that you like are like, oh, we have to do this sketch, let's write it down. And then the next time you do the sketch, you'd be like, this line wasn't that funny, I feel like this joke doesn't really work, can we just cut this? Let's just cut it. And you get like cleaner that way. And so that was, and the funny thing, sorry, this is like a long way to answer your question, but about that live show was, so basically what had happened, the position that we were in, was that we had all these sketches from doing a live show that we really liked. I mean, the first season of Whitest Kids is like almost like 90% of that had been written already and was like performed in the live show that we did. Were sketches that we liked to do in our live show. Like the first season, you know, like you could say it either took us a weekend to write, or you could say it took us like 3 years to write.
Wow. Okay.
Like both answers to that are true.
Yeah.
And so like we got together one night, like wrote down all the sketches on note cards and went like, this one's in, this one's out, this one's in, this one's out, this one's in. All right, how many do we have? We have too many. Okay, all right, we'll cut this one, we'll cut this one, we'll cut this one. And then the second season, like half of the second season is stuff that had been done live, like Whale Tale, and like there's like a bunch of them, but we started writing more original stuff. But we were still like, all right, let's go back and do the ones that didn't make the show that we still think are funny. And then at the end of, like, while we were making the season, so we used to like make it in this weird way where we would write everything, then shoot everything. A lot of times, like sketch shows, they'll like write an episode and shoot kind of as they're going and kind of adjust to what they're doing. But we did all the writing and all the pre-production at once, and then all the production, then all the post-production. And so we were doing the season, and like halfway through the season, our script supervisor comes to us. And the script supervisor, for those who don't know, is the person who like is following along with the script and like trying to keep track of like details of like what hand you're holding something in and the way you say something in one take so it's consistent in another take. And then another part of their job is just to like time stuff out and then do a little math and be like, okay, this is how long this is going to take. And it's sort of like this like common practice to estimate, you know, screenplays by a page of a screenplay is about a minute of screen time. Well, the script supervisor was doing all the math, and she goes up to the producer and she goes, they're going too fast. And he goes, what? He's like, sure, they're going too fast. There's not enough here. So she does all the math, and it was like this weird moment on set where we were like, you know, like you kind of like heard rumblings that like, oh, this might be like a serious problem, because so we thought we wrote 10 episodes of sketches, but
Yeah.
because we like the way we write, it's like everything's on top of, all the lines are kind of like said like almost in unison. It's very like fast back and forth, and there's a lot of that. It's very like frantic and manic, and so it turned out that we were writing at about a page and a half a minute. And so we were like, when all was said and done, one episode short. Well, by the time we figured that out and had production done, the Hollywood and SAG went on strike. And our show was non-union, and it was kind of like common practice for small shows like this to be non-union at this time. But like now it's, I think it's like everything under the sun is union. Mm-hmm. And even though it's like non-union, like Trevor and Zach were starting to do their like Miss March stuff, and right. They were getting in the unions, and we were worried about like writing new material for the show. But we like had an episode that we said we gave them 10 episodes, and we only had 9 episodes for them. And so what our solution we came to was we were going to shoot a live episode of all the sketches that were live sketches that didn't make sense to do in the show, but were sketches we've had written for years.
Yeah.
Wow. I bet that probably didn't cost as much either. So it's probably...
I mean, we still had to shoot all the other sketches. It's not like right. We did that instead of doing other stuff. We just were doing the other stuff too fast.
Yeah.
So I guess my big advice to everyone out there is say your lines really slow whenever you got to say anything. Time is money. And
yeah, we
writing is hard.
Parker and I and one of our other friends, Caleb, we've done some sketch stuff on YouTube, and me and Caleb both talk super fast, but Parker doesn't. So he kind of like grounds the pacing, so we don't like slide through everything. He's kind of our
It
rock.
really just makes me sound drunk. It sounds like when you slow, like you slow down, like someone to like a quarter speed, and they just sound like they're drunk. You know what I mean? It'll just be him and them going, well, zippity zap, zippity zoo, and I'm just like, yeah, bro, that's like a totally chill decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can relate. As the like low talking, chilled out guy. I can,
No.
I'm right there with you. And it was just this funny like way to kind of do these sketches. Like Line Leader, that was a sketch that we loved doing live and always had, but we're like, oh, it doesn't work if it's on a TV show. And then it's like, oh, but if we can put that, like context that it's in a theater on TV, then.
Well, that's one of the coolest episodes too, I think, just because it, like, even before hearing about all this stuff, it kind of gave you a sense of like the genealogy of the show. You know what I mean? Like, especially as like when I first watched the show, I was like a teenager. You just think that five guys showed up to a TV studio and were like, we want to write sketch comedy, and they're like, well, you got Moxie, kid, we'll give you a shot, and like, no, obviously they probably started off with a smaller production or something, and it kind of fills in like these gaps in your head that you didn't even think were there.
No, yeah, I think it did a good job of like presenting like who we were before the TV show to our audience, and it's funny because like originally when we got an opportunity to make a pilot, we made a kind of hybrid, like Curb Your Enthusiasm sort of sketch show where it was like about us being a sketch group on the Lower East Side, these drunk kids, and we get the opportunity to make a pilot. So it's like, in a way, like literally the fictional version of that. And when all was said and done, I think it was good, but not like great. And what the thing was like, I remember watching it once with Trevor and him be like, what do you think? And when there's a lot of times when you make stuff and you're younger as an artist, and like if you made something, you're like, yeah, that was great. Because you kind of have this part of you that's like, oh, if I don't say it's good, no one else is going to say it's good. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of like repeated the question. He was like, no, but like, really, what do you think? And I was like, I just think that like everyone really loves the sketches. That's the stuff that they all really laugh hard at. And that makes sense because that's the stuff we've spent, 5 years doing up to this point.
And so was that like, I was going to say, was that like pitched at all? Was it pitched as that, or did you like pitch it as just the sketch show?
Well, here's the thing is like, so like, it's funny, like you say like five guys going up to a TV network and being like, hey, we want to do a sketch show. It's like, that's like an impossible pitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, because it's like, who the fuck are you? Like, what is this? Oh, it's like what the joke we always had in the group was like, oh, I get together with my friends every week and we make little plays for other friends.
Yeah.
And then we write them, and then we at the end of the weekend we perform them. Oh, you write little plays? Yeah, we write little plays for our friends. And so that's like nothing, like that's you're like, hey, all right, we're gonna give you a shit ton of money because it costs a shit ton of money to make a TV show. Yeah. And so it's like, we're going to give you like even a low budget TV show. We're going to give you a shit ton of money. What are we going to give this to you for? So we can make little plays with our, like, no. But so what happened was we made this pilot for Sundance Channel, and they passed on it. And when they passed on it, which was like also one of those things where you think, you know, like someone doesn't want to buy something, they're gonna like tell you right away that they don't want to buy it. But a lot of times in like television, it's like everyone's like fast to say yes and slow to say no, you know, like because like if you say no and something happens tomorrow, and like all of a sudden like, oh, who's this Sam Brown guy, he's the next big thing, and it's like, guys, we just told Sam Brown that we're not going to make his show. We could have made it for like nothing. That was already the amount was already worked out, and it was like nothing, and now he's this big thing, and no one has ever said that, by the way.
Lifetime podcast for we think Sam Brown's a big thing.
And then so but they like waited like months, and we finally like got into the Aspen Comedy and Arts Festival, which they don't do anymore, but was always like, it's like Just for Laughs, where it's like this big opportunity for up and coming comedians to like get showcased in front of industry people. And so like before that, like with that whole promise of like, hey, we, you know, like we want to sell a show, that we were like now allowed to sell because, you know, they'd finally turned us down. We, you know, pitched to Comedy Central and HBO, and I think it was Comedy Central that was like interested in us. And then we pitched to Fuse, and Fuse was like, all right, we love the show. We want to make this show with you. And you know what? We know what you do. So you don't have to make a pilot. We'll give you 10 episodes. And you can just make the show you want to make. And they're like, because we don't have the exposure or the budget that Comedy Central has. But like what they will give us is that the freedom to make the show we want to make. And and that was when, and like the opportunity to go straight to series. And that was when we, you know, were like, yeah, this feels right. And that was like, yeah, everything was going for that, like a bird in the hand option, you know?
Right. Well, and also like, then you have like, even if it doesn't work out with Fuse, you have that 10 episodes to like shop around. You know?
Yeah. And it's basically, you know, we're betting on ourselves at that point, you know, like, and which is funny because like, it almost went bad. It almost like, you know, like came out and no one like advertised it, but then there were some executives that we ended up getting connected with who like really backed the show, and ended up getting this big ad push that like made it a pretty big hit for the network. And
and mind you guys switched to IFC after was it the first season?
Yeah. So what happened was that the executives, this is like exactly where we are in the story, is those executives, you know, like they all kind of like, the executives that bought the show originally had to leave because there was new executives coming in. And so now all of a sudden, I like to compare this to like you're working at a restaurant and someone orders a meal, and then you find out that, the person you're making this meal for left, but there's a new person at their table, and you just have to give them that other person's meal.
Yeah.
Hopefully they like it, you know?
I hope you like songs about Hitler, because we've got
yeah, exactly. And so we were with these new executives at Fuse, and luckily one of those executives loved the show. And she really she pushed the show back from being released, where it was like almost like not advertised at all, and was like, oh, we're gonna release it, you know, and it was originally supposed to come out in the end of October. It came out in March of the following year, and they did this big ad push where there were billboards around New York City, and you know, people watched the show, and it like really quickly got a second season, which we're like, oh, awesome, it's that big of a hit that it really quickly got a second season. Then we found out that I think the reason it really quickly got second season is because those executives who, were doing that, they had to go to different networks because this was all part of getting Fuse to look good for this big corporate merger. And then this new executive came in at Fuse and basically said, I don't like this show. It's, you guys are going to have its second season, but we're going to cut the shit with all this songs about Hitler stuff. And it's probably going to be the show's last season. And our producer, Jim Biederman, and our representatives, our agents and managers all went and called up the executive that championed us and made us this kind of hit at Fuse, and was based, I don't know if this is exactly how it went down, but I think more or less the sentiment was, hey, these guys helped you, with this merger. You should help them out by bringing them to the network that you're now working at, IFC, which is still at the same company, but just has a different head. It's and that's how we transitioned over to IFC, which I think just made more sense as a fit to the show. And
censorship and stuff, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah. The first 3 seasons we did there were uncensored, and then 4th season they went ad based, and it got censored. But
speaking of uncensored, because I was rewatching it, leading up to this, and my favorite thing you guys did in the first season is when you have nudity, and you'd be like, if you buy the DVD, you can see these tits. That is the funniest fucking thing.
Excuse me. They're called breasts. Okay.
Just
I'm offended by that because I have breasts.
We have for our podcast, if you get the Patreon tier, it's just our dick and balls the whole time while we're driving too. So
we have a crotch cam.
Everyone can see your breasts. Cool. Yeah.
There is that is in season 2 with the stripper that's just Darren, but with the prosthetic boob. That fucked me up.
That's
I hated to look at it.
That's what our goal was. It's there's all these paranoid homophobic Southerners who right wing, and they're like, oh, all these gay people are trying to turn our kids gay. No. All the sketch comedians are trying to turn your kids gay. That's the reality.
Yeah. I did wonder why it seemed like Darren was the woman more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Well, I think it became very clear to us that he was the best one at it,
Okay.
He's the hottest woman. I don't want to take it from you.
But I want to put some context into the whole the DVD topless thing. Is that I don't know if you guys remember this, but at that time, DVDs were big in the 2000s. I spent most of my Whitest Kids money on DVDs. I blew it all on HD DVDs, not even Blu-rays. At that time, it was kind of commonplace for these horned up teen movies like American Pie to have these it's American Pie, the unrated version. There's more boobs in this one. Yeah. Oh, and you'd see stuff advertised that way, and Girls Gone Wild was big, and that was just such a staple of the time, where these sleazy companies being hey, come watch the boobs over here. And so we thought it was so funny if our stupid sketch show was a part of that.
Did you also not did Darren also not sign a release like all the girls in the Girls Gone Wild videos do? Was that
yeah. So that's why Darren's face is blurred through the whole show. He's so handsome that even with a blur, you can tell how handsome he is.
Yeah.
What about one of my big questions too is like I like my first engagement with the show was definitely on like early YouTube. Like I remember
I was going to ask
early
the same thing.
YouTube, it was massive. You know, like the Call of Duty sketch I think had like in 2008 like over 1 million views. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's like a funny thing too, is like, so like that wasn't us putting it on YouTube. That's like
really?
some person ripping it from the show. Yeah. Cause we like, you know, we were like, oh, we were paid to make this for IFC. We can't put this online as ourselves.
Yeah.
And then IFC started taking him down at some point. We were like, whoa. We're proud of all the hits we got here.
Yeah.
And so then they like, there's this whole thing where they carved out a channel where there was like this channel. It's and I think it's still up. It's WKUK 100. And they were like, I think they told YouTube like, all right, this channel's okay. And then YouTube gave them the blue check mark to be like, yeah, this channel's official. And that person, whoever runs that channel, I have no idea who it is. And we've tried to contact this person to be like, hey, can we have your channel? Because it has like 500,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And I think that person might have made more money on Whitest Kids than I have.
Honestly, it could be.
That's insane.
Yeah. The other funny thing about like our relationship with YouTube is that, you know, we were a sketch troupe before YouTube.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, like, and there were sites like eBombs World where you would see like funny videos go up and stuff. And that was like, oh, you see this guy get hit in the nuts on eBombs World today? It's nasty. Internet rules. But it was like this like funny thing where we, you know, like YouTube, we were just in the right place at the right time for YouTube and had no idea, because so we had our own webpage eventually, like with our videos up on it. But like to get our videos up, you have to like host the video files. Yeah. And then, you know, like if people are watching those videos, that means you have like a lot of traffic, a lot of like data traffic, which means you need more, you know, bandwidth to cover that, which means that it like, you know, is harder. It takes more resources from the ISP to run your website. I don't know. I'm sure there's someone who knows the internet better than I do who's like, that's just gibberish what he said. But the gist of it is that when we put the Hitler rap video up online, it was pre-YouTube and it was onto our own website. And then someone on a blog posted the Hitler rap video, and then like someone reposted that.
Yeah. And
the Hitler rap video went viral before YouTube. And the result of that was we got a call from the company that hosted our website that was like, hey, you guys did so much traffic that it crashed our whole server. And because you did so much traffic, now you have to pay more.
Yeah.
And so it's like so funny though to think about that, of like that was like something you were responsible for back in the day, that like if you had too many views, you had to pay a company more money rather than the other way around, where
exactly, you know, nowadays you would have gotten like a fat ad check from YouTube, like, oh yeah, here you go, you did 10 million views, great job, you know.
Yeah, we would have gotten like a plaque from them. And when YouTube came out, so then YouTube comes out, and you know, like there's the thing of like, I wish I could say that we were like, oh man, this is the future and we're going to be popular on here and kids aren't going to watch TV anymore. They're going to watch this, and that's how we'll get big. No, we were like, hey, we could put our videos on here. Not even to like put it on there and have people see it on YouTube. We were like, we can just put our videos on YouTube and then host those videos on our website, and we don't have to pay anything anymore. That's awesome. Sick. And then like eventually, like when we had the show come out, the New York Times wrote an article about us, which is funny because I was like, we just had another article in the New York Times today, and I think at the time I was like, yeah, articles in the New York Times, that makes sense that I'm in the New York Times, but then like had not done anything newsworthy between then and now. And then finally I'm back in the New York Times, and I was searching for the article, and so I searched Whitest Kids New York Times, and this article came up. And the article, like the gist of the article was basically that Human Giant, Whitest Kids, and Tim and Eric are the first wave of comedy shows that were born from YouTube. And I remember reading that and being like pissed off and being like, we've been doing live comedy for like 5 years. Like, that's a big fucking deal. We've been doing live comedy for 5 years. We're not, but like, and then like now it's like, oh, that's like a badge of honor. It's like, yeah.
Because Parker and I are both like maybe like a year or two too young to have watched it on TV, but like we're like the perfect age to watch like all of it on YouTube. Like, and like
I thought you were gonna say we're like a year or two younger than you, and I was like, you guys look great.
Yeah, no, we exfoliate. But yeah, so like I know, when I was like a kid in high school, we were watching everything, and it is an honor to have the Grapist on the podcast. By the way, just like, did you fight to be the Grapist?
No. I agreed to be the Grapist. I didn't fight to be it. It was sort of like, is this okay? And I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I was thinking like a boomer, like one of the memes in the stand-up community like now is like your boomer parents telling you to put that in your little skits. So I was thinking it'd be funny, like if your grandma was like, well, the idea is it's a Grapist, and they tie you to the radiator, and they grape you in the mouth, and you're like, hold on, Grandma, I gotta write this down real quick.
That's great. Yeah. That's gold. We need a show this week. We do shows every week, so we need these ideas. My grandmother did see us do a live show before, and we did do the sketch we call Hot Air Balloon Poop Rope. Where I play an American exchange student who poops out of a hot air balloon, and then because there's no bowl, it's one giant long poop rope, but it ends up saving everyone because all the British people ride down it. And
it's dragging
after the show, my grandmother was like, I liked the hot air balloon sketch.
Were you still playing the American like in the live show though?
Yeah. They're doing all the bad British accents. Oh, Sam.
I did wonder, does the WKUK troupe, do they have like beef with Britain? Because like the first season, every 3 sketches is like there's something about England in there.
I mean, we're American. Don't we all have beef with Britain? Come on.
Oh yeah, brother.
Take some pride. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like we're big. We're like big influence for us is Monty Python.
Yeah,
I had a feeling you guys are silly.
Yeah, it's just do our goofums, but I think one of the things that is like was so perfect for Monty Python was the society they were in was filled with these people who were like had to stick up their ass, were like very proper and very like
Faulty Towers, like
and it's like that's like a perfect kind of like a perfect straight man within something where it's like you see that person who views themselves highly within society, and you just want to see them fall, and you just want to see them like kind of like like the world kind of crumble around them, and so like like the firing squad sketch, for example, where it plays off the whole thing that like in the Revolutionary War the British were used to like very proper sort of combat, and
Yeah.
the Americans, learned all these like kind of guerrilla tactics, and we're just like, let's just, this is war, this is not civilized. And so to see like these British people be like kind of snarky and like and smarmy and
Yeah.
I'd hardly call that a uniform. Too much. Like they're being pricks, and you just want to see them get shot. You want to see them taken down for being pricks. And I think that's the thing is it's not as much of us condemning British people as much as it's us trying to be British people making fun of proper British people.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. I did. So one other thing I wanted to ask is the first episode of season 1, I think, has some of the craziest sketches in. Like, there's like, you're kind of all over the place. You got like the Hitler one. You've got the one where your first big appearance in the first episode is you're trying to fuck a deer. Like the first episode is pretty intense. And I was wondering, was that like you guys trying to like make an impact? Because I don't know if you've seen like I don't know if you watched the documentary Too Funny to Fail about the Dana Carvey show. But
I haven't seen I've seen parts of that documentary, but I love that show.
So they talk about how like the first episode they picked like this sketch where the president I think it was Clinton was like nursing babies and dogs with like this realistic set of dog nipples, and they're like, it was coming after Home Improvement, and they really like killed the momentum, of their show before it even started. And you guys kind of went pretty intense in the first episode, but it seems to have paid off pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, like the thing is that if you look at the way that every season is designed, they do all have a similarity, because they were all designed in the same way, which was after the fact. Like it wasn't like we were like, all right, here are the sketches for season 1, episode 1, this one. We just have like, I have it here it's right here. I think this is it. Oh, this is great podcasting. Hear me digging through stuff. This is
right around.
This is season 4. Whitest Kids season 4. This is the binder of sketches from season 4 here.
Oh wow!
Of the whole season. Here you have the list of sketches that are in here, and it is like, this was how we did it. We wrote all these sketches and shot all these sketches, and then like Zach and Trevor would go and edit the sketches with our editors, and then assemble the episodes. And we would always, like we would do with the live show, we would always want to start out strong. Sure. And then, I don't know if you've noticed this, but episode 10 in every episode, it doesn't have, just because a sketch is in episode 10 doesn't mean it's bad. But there are some really bad episodes in like, or sketches in episodes 9 and 10 of every season. That's where we're dumping stuff out.
Was there like any sketch like you guys always wanted to do, but you just couldn't figure out a way to film or anything like that?
There was a sketch that we had on the schedule for the last 3 seasons, that like the producers of the show just like figured out that like the way to handle this sketch is to tell us that they were going to shoot it and then not shoot it. And that sketch was Cat Congress. So we had this sketch where the whole sketch would just be like a C-SPAN feed of Cat Congress, which was, we were going to get like, like the idea was we would get like 40 cats and put them in suits and make a miniature Congress and just videotape or just like film them and like, like kind of have this stuff that says like filibuster and like all this like kind of proper stuff, and like subtitles to what the cats were doing. And it was just, we were just like, yeah, we want to do this. And they were like, okay, we'll do it. And it's like, when are we doing Cat Congress? Oh, it's next week. Yeah, we're shooting next week. Oh, okay. And just like it just never happened.
Oh, that's awesome. So, like with like structuring episodes, you go ahead.
Sorry, just to add something on too, though. Like, I think because we never did Cat Congress, Trevor eventually wrote the song "Kitty History," and I think I'd say "Kitty History" is a better song than "Cat Congress" was a sketch. At least as far as like what the idea was, like. There wasn't much to Cat Congress. It would be great to see, but I think, Kitty History is a smart song.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure people listening to this will be disappointed that it didn't get made, but maybe with AI technology, it can come out now.
Yeah.
I was wondering with like structuring episodes. So is it just kind of like what fit together? Because you guys have like some like 15-second little like shots, like mini sketches and stuff. And was it putting it together, or was it like a pacing kind of thing?
There's a little bit of that. I mean, there was some sketches that were runners, so it was like you kind of have to have the like Superdog song in the episode that has the presidential props sketch, because that's where we introduce the character Superdog. But then there's also like stuff that like just comes up like throughout the whole season, where like even like Superdog they reference in many sketches. So there's that kind of detail of like this has to go with this and this has to go with this, but for the most part it's like pacing out a show where it's like you want to make sure you have like a big sketch that like will work. You want to make sure that like let's start out with this sketch because that's like a good one, or like maybe there's a short sketch but it's not the best, and it's like, well, let's throw that after this good sketch because we'll like just like breeze by it. We'll try and give it its best day in court,
I was wondering because you have like some of the many ones that like recur throughout. Like the one that outs in my brain is like when you have one of your nuts hanging out different places in your clothing. Like, will you perform but like 10 of those and like however many you can fit throughout the episode? Like, was that ever used as like a cushion, or was it like we're gonna do 3 of Sam's nuts popping out of his collar?
That's how we wrote it. Cause I like the 3. That's like was like the heightening of the idea. We did the like little like the scene, the like heart of it, which is the scene where it's just popping out of his pants.
Right.
And it's funny. I remember pitching that idea to Trevor, and it was like we were outside of pianos. We were like it was like after a show. I was like, it'd be funny if a guy had his fly down and his nuts were out. Like, and someone had to tell him. Yeah. And then we like went from there and elaborated on that, and like it became like a really funny little scene. And then we were like kind of like, well, where can we bring this? And then he gets a new shirt. Nuts pop out of his shirt. Where can we bring it past that? I don't know. It's like something else completely, and then you realize that it's that nuts guy.
Yeah, which I love. I love it never fits the same as it does in the store, once you get it home.
It never does though, right?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
So it's deceiving.
Go ahead,
It is funny to like thinking of you all like talking about the pacing, like Stanley Kubrick editing some of these sketches, you know what I mean? Just like the poop rope has to come out at minute 50. It has to come out, just like film it again, something like that.
I mean, I'll tell you, like, I've been like teaching sketch and directing sketch and giving like notes on sketch and like editing sketch for 20 years, for doing this stuff, or throw writing in there too. And the conversations that you have where it is like, it's sometimes like you have these moments where you just have to stop and like appreciate how dumb these conversations. I remember I was directing this, or I was editing this sketch, and it was this thing that this comedian friend Tom McCaffrey, that he was like, oh, I want to shoot this sketch where it's Eric Stoltz deleted footage from Back to the Future, and the whole joke is that like Eric Stoltz is like all his his stuff is like really bad. Like he's a bad actor. He has like a shitty attitude, and like it's clear like why they fired him. And so like at some point the joke is that he keeps on like farting throughout scenes, and so we're editing these shots and like shots of him skateboarding and stuff like that. And we're putting farts in, and we had like a 45-minute conversation on like how many farts is too many farts. And it's amazing. It's amazing that you can do that. It's funny. I always like people would say like, how do you describe your comedy? Like that's like always like a like interviewer question. So it's something like given a lot of thought to. And ultimately I would say the way I describe Whitest Kids is it was a show where we would try and tackle really smart things and show them in the dumbest way possible, or tackle really dumb things in the smartest way possible.
Yeah.
And
I think you definitely did that. I think you definitely
thank you.
Yeah. But I was wondering also, this is super well, you mentioned Monty Python. Did John Cleese really write the John Cleese thing?
No, he didn't.
I looked at before we started. I was like, "Oh my god, I have my John Cleese autobiography here," and I was like, "I gotta ask him whether or not he did," because that's so funny.
Little funny thing. This is not a great podcast story, but I was at LAX once and I'd like missed a flight, and so I was like, "Fuck, it's like horrible." I had to like reschedule to a later flight. I'm just like killing time there, and I go over to the bookstore. And they have the John Cleese autobiography. And I was like, cool. And I noticed it has a sticker on it that says signed by author. And missed my flight, but got an autographed copy of the John Cleese autobiography.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Good deal.
That's cool.
Yes, I think to end the podcast, we just have like 20 or 30 sketch ideas we want to run by you and just see. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I've been on a podcast that has done that before. Where the podcast host goes, I want you to like I'm gonna pitch you a sketch idea and you tell me what you think of it.
Okay, so it's the opposite of a hot air balloon sketch where people start climbing back up. That's the sequel.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah. Go.
What's funny is like the one sketch where it's Trevor doing like telling conspiracy theories to the kindergarten full of children. That one like kind of came true. You know what I mean? Like there are parts of the South now where they're like, yeah, so like just like doing QAnon shit and in classrooms or whatever. You know what I mean?
You want to know a secret?
Yeah.
Trevor was Q.
Really?
Yeah, Q's dead.
Yeah. I could have seen it.
Are you upset that Q's dead?
No.
Damn, Q's dead?
I'd double-edged sword if it was Trevor.
I guess that's...
No, yeah, I'm upset at that part. But
I did think that Q's Hitler song was a little derivative of the Hitler song.
Yeah, of Trevor's, yeah.
So that makes sense.
The Hitler dance, Q's song, the Hitler. Hey, everybody, do the Hitler dance. Trevor loved like fringe theories, and he always found like that stuff like super fascinating. And like even like especially the ones he knew like weren't true, and he'd be like, oh wow. It was always funny. Like there was like always something like that like Trevor would convince you of, and then you'd be like, did you know this to someone? And they'd be like, that's not true. And you'd be like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
I did see the episode of Joe Rogan that he was on, and it was a lot of that the whole time. Like, yeah. He also said he was like, yeah, I started vaping in like it was like 2007, and I was like, who started vaping in 2000? It was like super long before anybody else did.
That was an exaggeration because I would have been on the
maybe it was a little, but
TV
it was like
show.
it was way before I heard anybody else doing it. He was like,
if I had to estimate, I could say he started vaping as early as 2009, definitely in 2010 he was vaping.
Wow.
But like he we both quit cigarettes at the same time, and he never quit tobacco, or not nicotine, not tobacco. Yeah, he never quit. He for years was one of these people who just like popped lozenges. And
that's the worst one too, dude. That's the grossest one.
Yeah,
you should have done vaping. No.
No, he eventually vaping wasn't invented for a while.
Yeah. All the cool kids.
He started vaping when it was like a little it would the e-cigarettes where they tried to make it look like a cigarette.
Oh, like the blue. Yeah.
But before the blue, they would have these shittier ones that were just like these cigarettes. And then there was one time when he got his first rig, we were doing shows on the road, and he really had to kind of figure it out. And it was a lot of work. I don't know if you guys oh yeah, you're vaping here, but do you have what are you vaping from?
No, they just sell the whole thing now, and now it has a rocket ship on it and stuff. It's literally marketed to children, and they just don't care anymore. It literally has you pull a cord and it's the cow goes moo, and you're like, are you sure you're not marketing this to little kids? You know
what's so cool about that is they've done so much research on vaping that we know so much about the effects of that stuff. So I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, this is actually a Blues Clues vape that I got.
Oh, cool. No. But so we were on the road, and he had this vape, and it stopped working, and he was like, oh, it has this coil that you have to make out of copper wire.
That, yeah.
And
he was making his own coils,
but he was like, I don't have any copper wire. I don't know where can I get copper wire? Should we go to Home Depot? Can I get copper wire? Because he also when he got this mind set on something, he was like, all right, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And so anyways, this was when one of his albums was coming out. So this is a random detail is we had Comedy Central we're going to give you our Instagram account for the weekend or something like that, or our not Instagram. What was the 7-second movies? Vine.
Yeah.
We had the password to Comedy Central's Vine account for the weekend, so we were just putting up Vine videos, and we were in this town, and we were like, oh, well, we should make a model rocket and then make videos of us making this rocket and then setting it off in the parking lot of the Holiday Inn we're staying at. And when we went to the model shop, he saw a model kit for a potato and was like, oh, this model kit for a potato clock, not model for potato. Sorry. I'm all over the place tonight. So he found this and he's like, this has copper wire in it. So he bought the kit because there's just no vape shops in the town we were in. It was they hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
And so he made the coil out of the copper wire from the potato clock battery thing that he had, and then he did it, and he takes the first hit, and he goes, whoa. And just it's like his eyes are rolling back in his head. And he's like, that shocked me, but in a good way. and so he was vaping from his rig, and every time he had this huge reaction, someone that was doing a drug, like smoking crack or meth or something, being like and then finally we go to Kansas City a couple days later, and he finds a vape shop, and he goes to the vape shop, and he's like, oh yeah, I did this with my vape. And they go, where'd you get this? And so, oh, I got it from this kid. He was like this is poisonous. This copper wire that you use is poisonous. And he's like, oh. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yes, it worked though. So before we wrap up, I did want to ask about, you guys have a film premiering this Thursday, right? Mars.
This Thursday.
I think it's this Thursday.
Yeah. I am in disbelief that it's this Thursday. I'm leaving for New York tomorrow.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been I'll tell you, it's been 12 years. We've been producing this thing for 12 years. We or not produce, but we wrote the first draft of this script, I think, in July of 2012.
Wow.
And recorded the audio for it over COVID when everyone was in quarantine.
Do you think the Coney jokes are still going to land, or do you think that's like a little...
Well, they found him, didn't they? Did they find him?
I don't think they ever found him.
I don't know.
think he died.
So I think those Coney jokes are evergreen.
Yeah, they're going to hold up.
Yeah. We did like everything looks like a Coney 2024 thing, but now it looks like Coney is running for office, I guess. So that's weird.
Yeah.
So what is it about?
Turns out that Coney's a better candidate than the two candidates we have now. So
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, because this will come out after the premiere, which I don't know if that affects anything that you're willing to say, but because there's not a ton out about it, and I just stumbled on it earlier today when I put stuff up.
I think that's good that there's not a ton out of it, because I think it definitely is this journey. But I think the summary of the plot is it's a billionaire holds a Willy Wonka-esque competition for where the winners get to go on a trip to Mars, and our protagonist is a young pediatric dentist. He's a young children's dentist who is about to get married, and he has to make the decision of, do I want to get married or do I want to go to Mars?
That's a great. I'm intrigued already.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you voice a woman in it?
Yes, Peggy Bork.
Nice.
I had to think about that for a second, though. That was just, I think, telling of Peggy Bork, of her. Peggy Bork is more than a woman.
Not bad.
She's a force of nature.
Oh,
there was a point where the movie was going to be called Peggy Bork Goes to Mars, which we thought was really funny. Because she's not the main character. Sort of a Freddy got fingered kind of name to it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome. So that's the Ithaca. Is it Ithaca? No,
Tribeca.
Tribeca Film Festival.
It's awesome. At the Sheboygan Film Festival.
That's an accredited one. I think that trickles into Sundance.
I think we're in that too, Al. Weirdly enough.
Yeah.
You guys didn't even make a movie and you're in it. Wow.
Yeah. We've been trying to get into the short film movie hustle a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we did. Not to talk about us on the interview with you. No, maybe I should, Parker. Maybe I should.
No, do it.
Go ahead.
No,
I was just kidding. It's funny. I was like, when I said, "Oh, cool," right there, I was like, "Wait, he's being serious, right?" Because I'm gonna be embarrassed if he's like, "No, that was part of the joke." I was
come on, man, dude, I set you up. We did a thing that Kevin Smith's movie theater had a film competition thing. And we got into that, so that was pretty cool. We met Rick Darris from Clerks, so that was neat.
Kind of a Peggy Bork goes to the moon situation there. With the fuck is Rick Darris?
Yeah.
No, it was the funny part of that is we were sitting behind the people that won the film festival, the whole thing. So the guy at the end, he goes to point to the winners, and he points directly at us, and there's just a moment in all of our eyes where we're like, we did it, we didn't think we could, and then it's just the people right in front of us, so we're just immediately we're fucking shit, we're dog shit, we don't belong, we don't
everybody
deserve.
had a DP and a lighting person. For us, it was just the three of us with the shitty camera we got from our public access station.
That's great though. That's how you do it.
Yeah,
it's funny. I teach sketch classes, and one of my classes is a production class, and the original name for my production class that I gave it was how to make a shitty sketch. Because I think like the thing with getting good at any of this is starting at a place where you just aren't worried about it being perfect. You're just worried about it getting made, and you learn so many lessons from making something the wrong way that like eventually you figure out how to do it the right way. And I think we're so worried about doing things the wrong way, we tend to like avoid like doing that and keep ourselves from doing things the right way. I think that's the only way you learn, is just by like throwing yourself in that ring and doing it and trying to learn from your mistakes. And
no, I think that's, I mean, like you were saying earlier, you gotta bomb before you can get good at performing. Like I think it's the same thing with sketches. We've definitely got a lot of drafts that never got made.
Oh yeah.
But all right, let's. I want to do a couple rapid fire questions for you before we wrap up, if that's okay. First, what's like what's your favorite sketch that like you wrote, or that was you were the initial catalyst for?
I would either the first one that came to mind is Helicopter Door.
Oh, nice.
The close the door.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know. Which is funny because like that came about because there's one season that we wrote in LA, and Zach and Trevor had cars because they had been out here working on Miss March and like working on the post of Miss March, and so we all just like were only out here for a month, like Timmy, Darren, and me, and so we just got rides from them everywhere, and we didn't have to be anywhere, and so it would be like Timmy, Trevor, Darren, and me driving around New York or driving around LA, and we were like, we need a CD, like let's get a CD to like like listen to while we drive around. And we stopped at a Target and bought the Creedence Clearwater Revival Greatest Hits, and so we're like like driving around LA and we're listening to Fortunate Son, and everyone's thinking about those like Vietnam War movies where like guys are just flying around in those Hueys, and like, and we were like, we should write this tone of sketch, and it became that. And the funny thing about that sketch too, about the writing of that, is like we got to this point where like in that sketch, it's we're both in this back of a helicopter, and I'm telling Trevor's character to close the door, but he keeps on thinking I'm saying other stuff, to the point where he eventually is like, what, are you sure? And he takes his shirt off, and he takes his boot off, and he throws it out the door, and you can't tell like what he thinks I'm saying. I'm confused, and I'm just keep on repeating to him, close the door, just close the door. And he throws his boot out the window and goes, aren't I gonna need that? You're crazy, man. And then we got to that point, and we were like, all right, and then what happens? And then we pitched for like an hour and a half, like different versions of how we could end that, of like, and it was always like the craziest things. It was like, it's like, oh, then like a stray bullet comes and like shoots Trevor in the head, or like like there was a point where we're like, well, there's a Viet Cong guy that jumps from the jungle and grabs him. What if the helicopter crashes? What if this happens? What if he closes the door and there's a guy, like all these like insane ideas. And it got to the point where like nothing was right. And we were like done. And we were like, I never before with a sketch had I'd gone like from such a high of like, oh, I love this sketch, it's like one of my favorites this season, to such a low of like, maybe this isn't a good sketch. And we kind of were like, all right, well, let's like, we're all fried, let's come back to this tomorrow, see if we can come up with something. If we can't, we just, it's not a good sketch. And the next day we met up and we're like, all right, let's write on that sketch. And within the first 5 minutes, we're like, what if he closes the door? Yeah, he closes the door. And then Trevor realizes he's like done all this crazy stuff for nothing. Yeah. That changes.
That's
that tracks.
End.
Yeah. So sometimes I think there's such like a lesson in the fact that like, sometimes when you have a problem, you're going to beat your head against the wall trying to come up with a solution. And all you got to do is walk away and look at it with fresh eyes.
Definitely. But all right. Well, I don't know. Okay.
Sorry, you said like rapid. I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to give you a 10-minute answer to something.
No. So Rolling Stone has a list of the 40 greatest sketch comedy groups of all time.
Oh, I'm aware.
They didn't put WKUK on it. It pissed me off.
Yes.
Parker told me not to bring this up, but I was so irritated about it. I feel like I have to mention it.
I'm aware. I have a chip on my shoulder about this.
Really
it was something that like when it happened, like I was like, I shouldn't be concerned about this.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. Like, I am annoyed by this. Like, and you know what? I think like birthday boys should be annoyed by this too. I think they did. There was a little bit of like, well, they also didn't have birthday boys on, so that's okay.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, like, there are sketch shows on there that I'm completely unaware of, and also like, there's stuff on there where I'm like, I guess that's a sketch show, and it's like, I'm like, it's just part of me is like, who in that room hated me?
Well, our theory was that they had a bunch of like old heads that watched stuff in the 80s, and they probably brought on like one. They're like, okay, this is too many old people. Let's bring on like a hip new. Let's bring someone that's hip, and then they picked like the worst of modern pop culture to throw in there too. That's what it looked like to us. Where it's not people that from art, like us.
Yeah,
we're talking about it too. Like I have an office, and like we're kind of talking about like how popular was Whitest Kids You Know? You know what I mean? And it's kind of in a weird thing because like there are people at my office that know and love Whitest Kids You Know, like people that aren't from, that are older than me, younger than me, but there are also people that have like no idea about it at all. You know what I mean? It's kind of been like a weird like you know what I mean? It's not a household name, but like there's definitely like a large amount of popularity there still,
I think there's definitely like, if you were to poll the American public, there is, like there's like a large amount of people that like, I would say like if you like a lot of stuff, let's say like what's an example of like just like a TV show? That 70s show. That's a TV show. Say like there's like the people who haven't heard of it, and then you're getting to like, it scales up to like the people that like it, like oh, more people have heard of it, and like oh, like this percentage of people like really like it. And from my experience, what it is with Whitest Kids You Know is like there's like this like flat line of people haven't heard of it, and then there's people that really like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I think
there's like a large number of people where it's like, if you know that you like it, and like honestly, like there is this kind of like controversy, and I don't want to like stir any flames with this or anything. So if you're on a side of this sort of controversy, I'm sorry.
We're easy to sway into being on board with the controversy.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying that the listeners.
Okay.
but yeah, maybe you guys are, but like where we're re-releasing the shows out on all the streaming stuff now, and we censored some stuff, and we cut some sketches out for the streaming, and we've got this DVD coming out, and we may still leave stuff out of the DVD. It's not done yet though, so we don't know exactly what's going on with that, and people got really upset, and it's tough because it's like, I do really appreciate the people who are like diehard fans, but also, like there's, like there is a little bit of censorship where it is like of self-censoring, where it is like, like the bluntness of this might get in the way of like the idea and tone we're trying to get across with certain things.
Sure.
It might present things in a certain way that we're not excited about, and it honestly, it might be something that's been like holding us back from like just like having more people know who we are in a way that like certain comedians don't swear, and like it is a thing too on the show where like Trevor didn't swear, and it's like, I can be funny without swearing because that like also like makes me accessible to a wider audience, and
Right.
I don't think that we should be doing things necessarily for like, it sounds like I'm saying like, we got to do this to like be corporate, but I definitely don't want like people that there's that line of like, if someone that I thought like had like a good sense of things got like upset about us doing this thing, would that make sense to me? And if the answer is like yeah, that would make sense to me, I'm like, oh yeah, then, but it's like, if you want that person still to, you don't want to turn that person off to the good stuff just because of the bad stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that like a lot of people view like this stuff coming out on streaming, it's kind of like a time capsule for them, So I definitely could understand why that would upset people, but
this day and age, there's no like there's no erasing this stuff, and that also isn't the intention to do, especially like, and like especially with the streaming stuff. The thing is that like, it's streaming, it's out there for people to like discover and to like come across, and like it's out there for people to like, if it, and we don't know like the places it will end up, and you want to like lead with your, like how we have the crazy stuff at the, you want to lead with your best foot forward, and like,
right.
I just hope, like, I think one point is that like that's way more easy to swallow for me if it's coming from like the creators than if it's like
oh yeah,
like Tubi or whoever, it was like, well, you got to take this one out for us to put your little.
I mean,
but
and that's the
I am
thing,
just
like,
imagining though, like you saying all this stuff, and then you guys just made a bunch of characters CGI, like George Lucas going back and remastering like the original Star Wars films. You're like, we just don't know how it'll come, and then there's just like aliens in the background and stuff like that.
Here's the fucking hilarious part is that like people are like, all right, well, I'm going to compare this to them redoing the Star Wars movie, and it's like, the Star Wars movies were a little bit more successful than our show. Like,
it's even if it's kind of like Star Wars and really like Star Wars, it's the same.
I'll cross off Star Wars versus Whitest Kids U Know popularity from your rapid fire questions.
You're gonna make that poll.
yeah. But yeah, it's apples and oranges there, and
totally.
like, and also like, I think the thing is too is like, even when talking about those things, is like, our show is something that like we it is something that we're releasing it this day and age, and I feel like the fact that we are like putting it out there, we do have to like make a decision, you know. I feel like it's like the decision to just like kind of be like, well, I'm not going to do anything is a little bit like, you know, I don't know, it's a little bit easy, and a lot of times in life when like surrounded by these like complicated issues, the like easy answers is a lot of times the wrong answer, you know.
Yeah. Well,
totally.
you guys have the disclaimer that at the beginning of the episode that says something about like the irony of what we're doing here, but you know, which I think helps.
Yeah, no, and that was a thing too, that in itself is a decision, and like and I'm like glad we got to like write that in our own words, and like and I am bummed because there was this opportunity where like if I had more time on my hands, if I wasn't like a new dad, I think I would have sat down and at least written 50 of those so we could have a different disclaimer before every episode.
Yeah.
And I did write like I think 10, and there were some they didn't let me. Do you want to hear them?
Yeah, rattle them off.
There was
awesome.
Some they didn't let me. They like what we got was like I wanted to go hard with the disclaimer, and
congrats on getting your dad though. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, he's gonna be 2, so it was fairly new.
You enough. That's like second season.
Yeah, second season. Yeah, right on. He's going into a second season.
Al can only think of things in terms of a sketch comedy TV show too. He's like, what? On our next episode, I'm like, you mean when we go to the bar next, Al? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
All right, this one's highlighted, so this might be what we ended up with. But let me see. Disclaimer: the program you are about to watch makes light of possibly sensitive subjects. The irony intended to communicate certain points of view may not be as clear today as it was the time the show first aired. Be assured that we, the creators of Whitest Kids U Know, hope you do not find anything so out of line that it would discourage you from enjoying our collection of extremely stupid little plays we made to entertain our friends. So I think that's a long version of I think it was just like cut down.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it is now.
All right, so then there was disclaimer: the show you're about to watch is a comedy and is meant to be seen as such. It tackles possibly triggering subjects like homophobia, race, racism, white guilt, white fear, misogyny, what else? Child abuse, child endangerment, just all around bad parenting, and like there's this one where a king thinks a manatee's a mermaid, and he like like gets to third base with it. Like, I don't want to ruin it. It's weird. Anyways, hope you enjoy our dumb sketch show.
That's one of my favorite sketches. It's one of the quick ones with the instant karma bigot.
Oh yeah, which we didn't censor. Which it's funny because people are like, why is this one not censored? And it's like because the context is like very clear.
It's his accent. He slurs and getting his shit rocked. That's so funny. That is one of my favorites. But no, I like that disclaimer too. I think maybe you put that one
disclaimer.
on the
The show you're about to watch makes light of possibly sensitive subject irony intended to communicate the points of views may not be as clear today as it was at the time the show originally aired. Be assured that the creators of the Whitest Kids U Know hope you do not find anything so out of line to discourage you from the program. Now, without further delay, a show made by 520-somethings in 2006 who think boogers, boners, and pee-pee are hilarious. It was a kind of light one. I think that there is like one that's like goes pretty hard. The show you're about to watch may offend you. Don't worry though. When we created the show, we were always trying to make people laugh and be as thoughtful as we can be about what we're talking about. It's just that some of the humor and language did not age so well. It's not that offensive, we went there kind of humor. We're just not those kinds of comedians. We're not successful enough to be those kind of comedians. Please like us. Wait. Who's The show you're about to watch makes jokes that, if you take out of context, may get you fired, expelled, dumped, or even ostracized. Do not try to make them at home. Quoting comedy to people doesn't make you funny, and it shouldn't mean that you get voted class clown over someone who seriously wants to pursue comedy as a career. Frickin' Brian Smith thinks he's so funny. Anyway, enjoy our shagadelic show. Yeah, baby.
I love that.
Yeah.
There was one that had cum in it. I guess that's not on this list, but yeah.
Take a cut.
I think maybe that was the one that, you know what, that was the boner one. The boner was like the clean version of the one that show about where five guys think cum is super funny. And they were like, you can't put cum in the disclaimer. I was like, says who? Don't.
You have a disclaimer for the disclaimer. You're like,
yeah, disclaimer.
Disclaimer might offend you.
Yeah, disclaimer. This following disclaimer might offend you. It says "cum" in it. Oh crap, we did it there.
Hey,
our legal department really wants us to not use the word "cum" in the disclaimer, and it's becoming an Ouroboros of cum.
Oh God, there's too much cum over here. I'm not reading a script right now. It's just there's cum all over the recording studio I'm in right now.
No. What were they recording before this? Moana? But yeah, no, it is kind of rough that after the disclaimer though, doesn't it say like Weinstein Brothers Studio or something like that?
Well, yeah, that's the funny thing is like the first season was like distributed by Weinstein, and like the it's not like, hey, we're gonna get Weinstein Company to distribute our DVD.
Yeah.
Oh, is there anyone you need me to hold down? That's how we get this done. Hey, Harvey,
well, it's also like,
I'll do anything to get you to distribute our sketch show. Anything.
Darren, put on the wig.
Yeah, I was gonna say you dressed up like the no. But it's also just not like, oh yeah, we got picked up for the show. Let's do a full investigation of everyone involved real quick. That's less. Let me get my notepad out.
Yeah.
It's
like,
I never met the guy. Zach and Trevor met him in a meeting, and it had this, I guess, this weird where it was like fine, and then like at the end of the meeting, he like walked out, and like as he was like leaving, like turned around and said, "Don't fuck me on this."
He said to the sketch comedy troupe.
Yeah, he said, which is like, it's like I don't see how we could have fucked him on this DVD distributing deal that we did. Like,
yeah. Well, also I'm just
accidentally got rid of all the DVDs.
Yeah.
Harvey walks out. He's like, "Yeah, there's some creepy guy in there with a vape or something, dude. Like, I'd watch out for it." No.
Yeah. He just keeps on taking hits of vapes and
he keeps on asking me for copper wire, dude. That's like, I don't have any copper wire. No.
Also, who put this potato pocket in my trash can?
That's very much what being our trip was like. Yeah.
What's funny is me and Al are in Baltimore, and like, you know, one of the things is like, you know, if you have a drug problem, you steal copper wire. That's like a big thing. So now I'm just imagining like a bunch of drug addicts like having a bunch of potato kits like in like and like a sled or something like that. And,
well, what happens when they figure out the copper wire is the drug?
Yeah. Wait, we could cut out a whole nother person. Like,
fentanyl? That's so 2000 and late. Have you tried potato gun? Yeah. Awesome.
But
Al, did you have any more questions?
No, I think I'm about good. This has been my entire, teenage youth into adulthood. This has been pretty awesome. Some of the, there's so many classic sketches. I would say definitely top 40 sketch comedy troupes of all time.
Yeah, at least number 40. Come on.
Yeah, at the very least. Like, I know you had to get Amy Schumer show aired, but I think you guys had.
Yeah. it's like, quick, think of 40 sketch shows. It's tough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could have done it, but apparently they really could do it over there at Rolling Stone.
Well, half of them are like British ones, and it's like the lady on the corner. They ran 3 episodes in 1992, and it's like, how did they do enough? Like,
this is just your fetish, dude. That you just like, you just love this show.
You just like that one chick a little too much to put on your list.
You guys should make like a top 40 like magazines about music list, and then not put Rolling Stones in it. I think that would be the
best
fair
magazine.
That would be really good. Yeah, top 40 music magazines. Number 1, Spin.
Number 2, my personal zine that I had in the late 2000s.
Number 3, Spin Again. But yeah, no, this has been awesome, Sam. I appreciate you taking this giant chunk of time out of your schedule for 2 stand-up comics from Baltimore that haven't done a whole lot. Like it definitely means a lot.
And keep up the good work with the stand-up and everything. Like, you know.
Thank you. Yeah. Any parting advice for anybody trying to get into the comedy, sketch comedy game? Don't take away from your course, but
do it a lot. Like, do it and like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You and that's like kind of the strength of this thing is that, like, do it, like, write so much and perform so much that you're not going to be too precious over the sketches that you're putting up, because it's really hard. Like, especially like, like sometimes I get people starting out and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to try this. I don't know. And it's like, you got to get over that attitude like right away, because they're just trying to write one good sketch. And if you're trying to write one good sketch, you're going to put everything into it. And like, it's just a kind of thing of like, you got to like treat each idea like it's its own idea and just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Hell yeah. That's great advice. I feel like we need to do that with just like joke writing in general more, because a lot of times you'll like try a bunch of shit and you're like, God, this all sucks. But like really building on it and grow up from it,
No, and I think there's no problem with jokes sucking. Like, it's like that happens all the time, and it's just about like getting the audience to like there's 2 parts to like every joke, where it's like there's like the kind of technical structure of it, like, oh, we're gonna like set the audience thinking about things this way and we'll catch them off guard this way. And then there's the philosophy to it, this sort of like part that's you being like, this is funny because life is crazy. Yeah.
We definitely both have. We've been doing it long enough. We have a couple jokes in the set that are more so for us than the audience, for sure. But just ones that you love to tell. But so thank you so much for being on, Sam. This is really you're the coolest fucking first guest we could get, as like both of us being like long time. I'm not saying that like we'll say, but like for long-term WKUK fans,
we'll say I'm the coolest guest you've had on your podcast.
Yeah, you are the coolest guest we've had on our podcast by far.
Cool.
But
awesome.
But I'm also the fattest guest you've had on your podcast too. So
if you include both of us, you're not in the top 2. You are like that's the Rolling Stone top 2 fattest podcast guests.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. We'll do it again sometime. Maybe get the rest of the boys on here. But thank you so much again. This has been great.
Good hanging out.
Thank you, Sam.
Right. Good to see you.